All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to How to Select Your Room and Meal Plan Online. I'm Virginia. I am our Director of Housing Administration, and I am joined by my colleague Elliot, who's going to kick us off this evening.
Hi, everyone. So, our content for the webinar today, we're going to go over a brief tech check and logistics. We're going to review the timeline for new student housing. You'll get to know Virginia and I throughout the presentation, and then we are going to talk through room selection and how that will work for students, and then meal plan and renter's insurance information, as well as bed configurations. We'll talk through some optional room changes that will happen, and then we have a step-by-step walkthrough of room selection so that you can see what it will look like, and then we have time for your questions. So for the brief tech check, make sure to adjust your settings to whatever's going to work best for you. You can maximize the view of the presentation slide and minimize the presenters if you'd like to be able to read the slides. You can turn on captions, and then this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the orientation YouTube page in a few days. If you have questions, the Q&A function is turned on through Zoom, or the chat will be open if you are in the YouTube version of this on the live there. Our team will be answering throughout the webinar, but as always, feel free to hold your questions until the end if you want to see what we've got to share with you, and then make sure that you get your questions answered. So on the screen right now is just a copy of the Living on Campus timeline for new Hawkeyes for 26-27. So if y'all remember, we started back in January with the application opening and monthly randomization beginning. We have come a long way. We are now almost to June for online hall, room, and meal plan selection. And then once that's complete, in July, we'll have move-in date selection. And then in just a few short months, you all will be packing up and getting ready to move in mid-August. So if you are joining us and you have not applied for housing yet, or you applied after May 1st, this is a note that the housing application is now a wait list. Applications received May 2 through 31 will receive a housing assignment in late June, early July. So stay tuned for more information about that around that time. And if you've got questions, of course, reach out and we'll be happy to support you. So Virginia introduced herself. I am Elliot. I am one of the contracts and assignment specialists on our team. And I'm really glad to be here with you tonight to go through room selection. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Virginia.
Okay, let's jump right in and talk about room selection logistics. And so, a few things overall is that room selection time slots were emailed to everybody last week, and those are based on your room selection number, and then also whether or not you're participating in a living learning community or honors, or you might be pre assigned to a triple quad or Mayflower suite. So, check your email if you have not received that time slot message. Feel free to double check your junk mail or check your U Iowa account, more importantly. Um, One thing to know is that all of our time slots are Hawkeye time, and so that's Central Daylight Time. Another piece to remember is you all know your room selection number and you'll know your room selection time slot. One of the most common pieces that we hear from folks is, I applied early. And we want you all to know that the majority of the first year class applied in January. We received over 4,200 Hawkeyes in the month of January, and more than 6,600 applied by May 1. So we've got a big batch of y'all coming in, and we're so excited to make sure that we've got housing for everyone. And as Elliot mentioned before, if you applied after May 1, you will get housing. You will not receive a room selection time slot. And if you forgot to sign up for SOAR or orientation by May 15th, you also will not receive a time slot, but you would have received a different message instead. Okay. So, important note about hall availability. New students like yourselves will live in every single hall except for Park Lawn, which is strictly reserved for returning students and transfers as space allows. Returning students selected their rooms in February, and they chose spaces primarily in Burge, Catlett, Hillcrest, Mayflower, Parklawn, Peterson, and Stanley. They also reserved the majority of the single rooms across campus. So it's time to get cozy and enjoy that classic college experience with one or two or three roommates or suite mates, depending on how your assignment works out. A couple of things that we want to make sure that you know going on in that impacts availability. There are a variety of options, and that would include where those returning students selected first, your gender. Our class size is nearly a 60-40 split between women and men. And so when we have more women living on campus, that's going to change the options that are available to you. Again, if you have joined a living learning community or might be in honors housing, those have very specific locations. And then if you might be one of our students who is part of a reserved housing group because of a particular scholarship program, or if you're a student athlete. And then the most important factor that will impact where you have the ability to select is your fellow Hawkeyes on this webinar tonight. We cannot control or predict where they might select, but they will have a direct impact on what is available for you on the day that you log in. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about triples and quads, which have been really exciting. In total, we have more than 1,600 new Hawkeyes who will live in either a triple, a quad, or a Mayflower suite. And students, this was an optional piece for students to say, hey, yes, I'd like to be pre-assigned to a triple quad or Mayflower suite. And demand was extremely high in certain areas. And so we messaged a batch of you because we weren't able to accommodate all requests. And overwhelmingly, we had folks who were very excited about the potential of a Catholic quad. And I'm sorry that we were not able to accommodate as many of you as wanted to. But that's fine because you'll be able to pick your own rooms next week. And so what that will look like is there's a few options. One, we've got availability still in Peterson and Stanley triples along with Mayflower suites if you wanted one of those options. If you did not opt in to an early assignment of a triple or a suite, you could still potentially select one of those rooms during your room selection period. And if you're in a roommate group of two, you are also welcome to live in a triple room or a Mayflower suite. You just want to be prepared to welcome those additional roommates. And then the other piece is that if you are one of our students who might have a later time slot, something in June 10th, 11th, or 12th, you are the folks that might want to consider triple rooms or suites because those are going to be the primary options available to you. Okay. All right.
I'm going to
Elliot?
talk,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm going to jump in with some more logistics for room selection. So, first, plan to be available during or after your time slot because that's when you'll be able to access the housing portal. We encourage you to plan on logging in on a computer or tablet for easiest navigation of the portal and make sure you're hanging out somewhere with strong internet access, whether that's home, the library, a neighbor's house. Those are all good options. We just want to make sure that you have access to the housing portal. To prepare, we have several tips that we hope you will take from tonight's webinar and bring to discussion with your roommates if you don't have a room yet. So if you weren't pre-assigned, but make sure that you're reviewing the housing and dining options and roommate information. What options are you and any of the roommates that you might have in your group comfortable with price wise? Because there are different options at different price levels. So make sure that you're having those conversations of what are we comfortable with as a group? And then make sure that you are familiar with all of our residence halls and create your plan of about 8 to 10 options and backup options. We encourage you to consider halls or room types you might not have originally thought about, such as a roommate group of two considering a triple, so that you could be in maybe the hall of your choice or the side of campus of your choice. And then discuss the selection logistics with your roommate or roommates. So, who in our group has the earliest time slot, and we'll log in first to assign our group. Some students enjoy working together on that first round of assignment, as far as being on the phone together or maybe a video chat during that time, so that you're getting feedback real time of, okay, our first option is not available. Let's go to the second option. And then kind of deciding as a group. And then just making sure that you're ready to work through different backup options and that you are prepared to, consider something that you may not have considered before. A note to parents and families. Students should be the ones that are logging in to complete the online process. As we've shared before, there is not a guest account for housing and dining like there is for things related to the U-bill and grades and things like that. So there's not a parent portal, there's not a parent account for housing and dining. And if any issues arise, students should contact our office directly, whether that's by phone or email. We want to hear from students so that we can support them with whatever might be going on, and help them navigate the options available to them. Parents and families, we also have some things for you to think about and then maybe discuss with your Hawkeye, maybe over dinner this week. But get familiar with what is your student's plan for online room selection, whether they are selecting as an individual or with a roommate group. Are they the one with the earliest time slot who's going to be logging in and making those room assignments? Or did they maybe opt into a triple, quad, or Mayflower early assignment? Talk about that list of 8 to 10 options, and just how you're going to work through and be prepared if your first or second or third choice is not available. You can always talk about how did you come up with that list? And then review family insurance coverage to ensure that your student understands the policy and if it works and covers them while they're on campus at Iowa, or if a separate renter's insurance policy needs to be purchased. Now I'm going to tell you about meal plan information and how that will look in the room selection process. So after you've selected your room, you will get the chance to select your meal plan. All first year students living on campus are required to have a meal plan. Meal plan options for students that do not have a university supplied kitchen in their room include the unlimited plan, the block 160 plan, and the weekly 14 plan. There is an additional option for students in Mayflower that have those university supplied kitchens. That's the block 50 plan. So meal plan changes are going to be available while the portal is open until June 15th at 12 p.m. So once you are able to log in at your time slot and you make it to the meal plan pages, you can revisit that later until the portal closes on June 15th at 12. But then we also have another meal plan change period, August 12th through 28th, and that's through the dining website. And so that does include some of the first days that students are on campus. So if they realize that, the meal plan that I picked actually isn't serving me in the way that I was hoping it would, I might be better served by one of the other options available. Students can make that adjustment within those first couple weeks. So the meal plan options here, I've got it broken down into a table that shows the meal plan name, the estimated meals per week, the dining dollars that comes with each meal plan for each semester, and then if it comes with guest meals, and then the cost per semester. So meal plans include both the meal swipes for the marketplaces, which are the unlimited or the block or the weekly. Each of those have a different number of meal plan swipes for the marketplaces. Each meal plan comes with dining dollars that spend like cash. And we've got a slide that shows a little bit more about where you can use those meal plans, and then guest meals for some of the plans. And then if you want more details, you can always visit our website to check out more information about the meal plans. And again, a reminder that we do allow students to make changes at the beginning of each term, and that's through the dining website, not through the housing portal. So a lot of students wonder, where can I use my dining dollars? So dining dollars can be spent at any of the UH&D retail locations as well as the marketplaces. So if a student, let's say they're on the weekly 14 plan and they use all 14 meals in 1 week and they would like to go once more on, Saturday for lunch before it resets on Sunday, they can use their dining dollars to purchase a meal at the marketplace. And then the retail locations. So on this map here, I've got some teal stars that indicate the retail locations that are across campus. We've got some in the residence halls that are like C stores, as well as the Fire Up Late Night Grill at Catlet and Yella's at Black Gold Grill in Peterson. Those are both retail options there. And then we have UH&D retail locations that are outside the residence halls in some of the academic buildings, the main library, and then a couple spots across campus. And then Iowa Memorial Union will not have any retail locations for this fall, but they will reopen in fall 2027 after the construction finishes. And now I'm going to turn it over to Virginia to give us a little more information about other pieces of room selection.
Thanks, Elliot. Uh, Everyone, thank you so much for the questions that you've been posing already. And these next few slides are going to answer a handful of those for you. First, renter's insurance. It's not required, but we strongly recommend that you obtain that. And so check your coverage first. Existing policies may cover students while they're away at college, so that could be your homeowners or your current renter's insurance. If not, we have a college student focused plan through GradGuard that you are able to pay for individually. It's less than $20 a month and covers quite a bit of potential challenges that you might want coverage for. So what will happen is during online room selection, and we'll show you this shortly, you will receive information about GradGuard, make a selection, and then return to the housing application portal. And we'll show you what that looks like again in just a moment. So bed configurations, this happens after meal plans and after GradGuard. Then you can decide, hey, how do I want our room configured? And it's important to note that there are a few different options that vary based on location. So most buildings have a high loft available to them, except for Mayflower. The rooms are big enough that they don't need those. A high captain is one where the dressers will fit underneath. And then if you're a student in a triple or a quad room, we have a preset bed configuration. Those triples will come with one high loft and one bunked bed, and quads will come with two sets of bunked beds. And you can log into the portal and adjust your bed configurations all the way until July 6th. And we have that deadline in July, so that way our staff can start getting those beds in order for you all before you arrive here on campus in August. All right. I know that folks often ask, can I change my room? And so during your room selection time slot, you will log in. If you have been pre-assigned, you'll see your room and you'll see your roommate at that time. If you are just selecting your own room, you will go through all the steps that we're going to show you. And then you'll have to pick a meal plan, a bed configuration, do renter's insurance. And at the end, you can explore a potential room change if there is space available without committing to it. The most important piece that we want folks to note is that if you're hoping to move with your roommate, you're going to need to make sure that you identify a room that has two bed spaces open in there. And we'll give you a photo of what that looks like in just a little bit. Okay, so Next, what we're going to do is we have a pre-recorded video that is a walkthrough of how to pick your room, so that way we don't forget all the important information. Some will be a brief review of what we've just discussed, and you'll see live screenshots of what it'll look like when you are doing the process. And we will show a roommate pair first, and then we will show an individual who is coming on in without an assigned roommate. And I know a couple of you have asked, what's that going to be like? So watch and see.
Welcome to online room selection at the University of Iowa. Begin by logging into your housing application on a computer or a large tablet to ensure that you have full visibility of the screen during the room selection process. You'll need to select the housing application for the upcoming year. And then when you log in, room selection pages will appear next. You can see that in this example, Herky will be selecting a room with their roommate, Lil Red. Herky is the first roommate with a room selection period, so they can pick on behalf of both. There are a number of online room selection instructions that we encourage you all to read thoroughly, as it provides a great overview of frequently asked questions in the process. Once you finish reading through those, select Continue. We also have expectations of our new students and families online in the housing application portal to make sure that everyone understands how to proceed with the process. In general, we want to ensure that you and your family members treat all Hawkeyes, both students and staff, with respect during a very busy period. You'll begin the room selection process by selecting a building to move into. You will see buildings that you are able to select if there are spaces open. On the next page, you will select a specific room. Because Herky is selecting a room with their roommate, they want to make sure that they select at least a double room, and they are going to be looking for rooms that have 2 out of 2 bed spaces available. You can see that this is a double room and that there are 2 spaces available. They can look at more detailed information by selecting room occupant and floor plan, and this will show you a layout of the room and then also where the room is located on the floor. After you're done reviewing that information, click Go Back. And if this is a room that you would like to select, then hit Select Room to add it to your cart. During online room selection, carts are reserved for 10 minutes for you to complete the process of assigning yourself and your roommate a bed. You'll scroll down and click Assign Beds. Because Herky is selecting on behalf of themselves and a roommate, they need to assign themselves to one space and then their roommate to another space. If there are any questions about this, please pause before proceeding to make sure that you have both roommates given a bed in a particular room. You will have the opportunity to review your room selection, or you can go back and pick a different room. If you select Go Back, this will restart your entire room selection process. If you want to continue and confirm this particular room, then you'll hit Confirm, and you can see a confirmation that says that you have picked a room, but you have to finish the portions of selecting your meal plan and reviewing renter's insurance options. Click Continue to move along. And so on the next 2 pages, you'll learn about GradGuard, who is our official partner for renter's insurance. You are strongly encouraged to obtain renter's insurance before moving into the residence halls. This page will take you to the GradGuard website, where you can indicate if you would like to purchase GradGuard insurance through them, or you could decline coverage because you may have it through another provider. You could be covered under your parents' homeowner's insurance, or you just don't feel like you need it. And once you've selected an option, you will continue, and you will be automatically routed back through the housing application portal. Once you have made a decision about renter's insurance, you'll then click Save and Continue. On the next page, you need to select your meal plan. All students living on campus, especially first-year students, are required to have a meal plan. There are 3 primary plans that you can select, and then there are 2 additional options for students that choose a room with a university-supplied kitchen. In this instance, Herky is in a double room and does not have a kitchen, so they will choose the unlimited plan. Click Save and Continue, and then Herky has the opportunity to select their bed configuration. The photos show examples of each of the beds that are available, and once you've scrolled down and talked with your roommate about what you were thinking about, you'll be able to then indicate that. Please note that if you are in a triple or a quad, some of your rooms come with a very specific layout, and you will see that noted in the portal. After clicking Save and Continue, you'll receive a confirmation again of your room assignment, where it is located on the floor, and who your roommates are. At this point, you can choose to return to the housing application home, or you may look at options to change your room. Now we're going to show you what it looks like if you are selecting a room on behalf of one student. And so in this example, Purdue Pete logs in to their housing application, and then they are able to see that roommate matching has ended. They are not in a roommate group, and that is a-okay. They will continue on to online room selection instructions, just like the other students saw. They will also review the expectations of new students and families, and then begin by logging in to view the particular buildings. And so when they view, they want to pick a room in Slater. They'll select that space, and then they might decide, I'd like to live on the 2nd floor of Slater. So they are going to pick that as an option. And then scroll through and look to see. Now, Slater 227 has 1 space available in it. And so Purdue is interested in knowing about the person who has selected into that space. And they can see that Brutus has selected a space in there. And they think, what? Maybe I'll take a chance and live with Brutus. And so as a result, they will go back. They will add Slater 227 into their space by selecting the room and assigning the bed. They'll click Assign Bed. And then just as the other students were able to review their room, they confirm it. And after the confirmation, have to log in and select their meal plans. And so they will review the grad guard information. They may decide that, they want to decline coverage at this time because they believe that they are covered. And that is okay. Pieces will come back through. They will save and continue and now select their meal plan. And finally, they will end by selecting their bed configuration. And at this point, Purdue Pete has selected and completed the process, and they have all of their information here.
Okay, well, hopefully that helped answer a number of questions, especially for you individual students who might not be selecting as part of a roommate group, and also helpful for those of you who are selecting as part of a roommate group. One of the most common questions that I've seen come through is whether or not the first roommate will select meal plans on behalf of the whole group. and they will not. The first person will strictly select the room, and then the second person, when it's their time slot, will log in to pick their specific meal plan. So hopefully that's helpful to understand that. Everybody has some actions that they will need to take during their unique time slot. Okay, and so here's what's next. Elliot, take it away.
All right. So you will participate in room selection and meal plan selection May 28th through June 12th. You will then receive your housing contract via email on June 17th. So keep an eye out for that. Something to note is that once we send out that contract notice email, you don't have to take action if you're good to go. The only action you would need to take is if you were choosing to cancel. And if you are canceling, you'll want to make sure that you cancel before your contract binding date. That will be June 24th. But if you've selected your room, you're still planning to come to Iowa, nothing has changed, there's not any action that you have to take to accept your contract because you have already reviewed and signed the terms and conditions as part of your housing application. And then another thing that you'll want to get ready for is our move in webinar. That's going to take place on June 30th. And there is a QR code on the screen that will take you to the registration page for that if you'd like to get signed up now. And even if you sign up and you can't make it, you'll get notice about the webinar being put onto the YouTube page so that you can watch it later. But we'd love to see you there to answer all your questions about move in. And we do have a quick reminder. Make sure that you take time to request your Iowa One card if you haven't done that yet. The deadline to do this is July 15, and you're able to upload a photo, and the cards will actually be mailed to your home this summer. And then you'll want to make sure that you pack the card with you when you move in so that you have that to access the residence hall. We've got the link on the screen as well as a QR code that takes you to information about that online photo submission so that you can get your card ahead of time so you don't have to wait to have that and to access the many things your Iowa One card grants you access to, which includes the building, spaces inside the building, sometimes stairwells and elevators you need your card to access, as well as your meal plan. You'll swipe your card to eat in the marketplaces, and then you can also use your one card to pay with dining dollars at the UHD retail locations. And then you'll need your one card if you're going to check out books at the library and other resources. So it's a very important tool to make sure that you get before you move in so that you have it when you get here, and make sure you pack it in a very important place and tell at least one other person what that important place is so that it is not the mystery of the missing card. And now we'll open it up for your questions. You've been submitting questions through the Q&A. Our team is working through those. Virginia and I are going to take just a second to look through the questions to see what themes are coming up so that we can answer some questions broadly. But hang on for just a second, and I'm sure Virginia is going to dive right into some of those hot topics.
Oh, yes. Okay, so I'm going to do a few about dining. I mentioned earlier, each student will select their own meal plan. And as Elliot described, one, you can make your initial selection right now. And then once you all are on campus, you'll be able to make changes in the first few weeks of the semester. You will also be able to change your meal plan again in January if you realize that you need a different meal plan or your schedule requires something different of you. So lots of opportunities to make sure that you're getting the right plan for you. Dining dollars are, and the question is, how many dining dollars does it cost in place of a meal swipe? And so a meal swipe gets you entrance to the all you care to eat marketplaces. And all of our meal plans come with swipes. However, if you use all of your swipes and have dining dollars left over, you could pay the walk-in price to eat in the dining halls. And it's just around $14 for lunch or dinner for all you care to eat. And you could use dining dollars for that. but most students are able to maintain enough swipes throughout the semester to be able to do that. Another question about the meal plan. Okay, we answered that. Everybody's going to pick their own meal plan. So roommate 1, you just have to worry about the room. Roommate 2 will come on in and do their meal plan afterwards. And if your room is staff assigned, you will still log in during your time slot to look at your room assignment and to be able to, pardon me, let me back up. You'll be able to look at your room assignment and then also to pick your own meal plan and your bed configurations. And the team has let me know that several of you are asking, can I get a building floor plan before room selection so I can try to plan ahead of time? I love the initiative. We do not make our floor plans public, available to you all. But when you log in, you will be able to see a list of rooms available, and you will also be able to see where on the floor that room is located. So I'm sorry, we don't make those available publicly, but all the double rooms will have space for folks, all the triple rooms will have space for folks, and we look forward to you selecting your room on campus.
All right, Virginia, I'm going to chime in with a few questions. Just to make it clear, every student has their own time slot. That's the time that they get to log in to take action. If you're in a roommate group and one roommate has a time slot before the other, the room will be selected by the other roommate as long as they assign you a bed. But you still got to log in during your own time slot to finish the other steps of meal plan, renter's insurance, and bed configuration. So you have to wait until it's your time slot, until it's your turn to log in. But as long as your roommate assigns you to the room with them, you'll have that room assigned and you log in when it's your turn to complete the other steps. Questions about the renter's insurance and why do we need that? What does that cover? Does each student need their own policy? So the renter's insurance covers your personal property in the event of any kind of damage. Some policies cover theft or loss. So check with your individual policy on what that's going to cover. But that covers your items in the event of some kind of problem, damage, etc. The furniture that is provided in the room, the floors, the doors, the walls, that is not part of your renter's insurance. Your renter's insurance covers your personal property. And that means that each student needs their own policy. And your policies will probably be unique to yourself. Some policies have computers included. Some have it so that you add on if you want your computer and your iPad or Kindle, etc., included on that. You also, if you're going to bring an e-bike to campus, those often require a separate insurance policy with your provider, and they're not automatically covered under a renter's insurance policy. So just a couple tidbits there. If you have questions about GradGuard, they have contact information on their website. You can reach out and speak to an agent. You could send an email. They have a live chat option if you have specific questions for GradGuard about what might be covered or any additional like riders or policies that you might want to add. So just make sure that you review the information so that you know what's covered. And a reminder that we don't require it, but man, do we strongly encourage it. And then we encourage students, you don't provide us with your policy details. We don't collect that, but make sure that you have that information saved in a very secure place so that you can access it if you were to need it. Virginia, what do you got for us?
Okay, I have a few questions about the logistics of room selection. And so, Hannah, thanks for your good question. When I log in, will I only see what is available? Yes, that is correct. Our system is dynamic. And so you will see rooms that match your gender and that have space available in them. If you don't see a building, then that building has been filled. Or if you don't see a particular floor, then that floor might not be for your specific gender of, and so you'll see what you can choose when it's your room selection period. I know we've had some anonymous questions. One was, can I log in ahead of time to see what's available? And no, we do not make that option available. And that's because the system is constantly changing. And so while you might log in on Tuesday and your room selection is on Thursday, I guarantee you there are different availabilities between them. And so this is why Elliot's recommendation earlier of having 8 to 10 backup options is a good idea. And so that way you're going to have a variety of ways that you'll feel good about living on campus. One of the other questions that someone asked is, how many people are in my time slot? And that will vary based on the day, but we have approximately 15 to 20 students accessing the portal every 15 minutes. And so we have new students who will start on Monday, June 1st, and then we will go the 1st and the 2nd. We take Wednesdays as a pause, and then new students will enter the portal on Thursday and Friday. Pause for the weekend, and then the following Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. An important thing to note is that you don't have a limit as to how long you can be logged in. And so if your time slot is at 10 o'clock, but you're working a shift and you can't log in until 10:30, that's fine. You can log in at 10:30 and then continue on with the process. Not a worry. So that's something that we want you all to know. You don't have to log in before a certain time. So, all right. And then, oh goodness. Okay.
I've got a couple, Virginia. Some
Do it.
questions about honors housing. So our students that are in the honors housing community will be pre-assigned to their space in Catlett, and they will log in at their time slot to see where they have been assigned, and then to complete the remaining steps. A couple questions about who else lives in Catlett? Is it just honors? No, Catlett is home to the honors housing community, several of our living learning communities, including Iowa Writers, Connect to Biz, Arts, and Political Matters, as well as returning students who have already selected their rooms there, and then lots of other students as well, lots of first year students. Catlett is one of our largest buildings with just over 1,000 residents. So it's home to all kinds of people that you'll get to know throughout your time. And also some questions about pricing. If you would like to see the different room rates, those are on the housing website. You can see that ahead of time. And then when you are looking at rooms in the housing portal, if you click to view room information, you're able to see the cost of the particular room that you are looking at. So you can prepare ahead of time by looking at the housing website to see the rates, and then you'll see it in the portal. And an important note about our rates is that the rates are per student per semester. So it's not a split cost. What's listed on the website is for one student per semester. And so they pay that on the August 1st U bill and then on the January 1st U bill. Virginia, what you got?
Okay, a few more questions from our students that are in living learning communities or honors housing. They've asked, if I'm on the specific floor, will my room number be pre-assigned or do I select the specific room? Your room number has been pre-assigned, and you'll be able to see that when you log in during your room selection time slot. If you requested a specific roommate, you'll be able to see that individual or your assigned roommate at that time, depending on how your living learning community worked out. A couple of folks have asked too, can I change my room if I'm in a living learning community or honors housing? And you may be able to, but it is highly unlikely. And that is because all of our living learning communities are full. And so there's not room to rearrange within the puzzle. So just a piece to be aware of. And then switching gears a little bit to meal plans. Can you add dining dollars throughout the semester? Yes, you absolutely can. We have a website where you can monitor your swipes and your dining dollars. And so that way, if you feel like you might need more dining dollars, you can have those added in increments throughout the term. So that's not a concern. And if you are a student who might want to keep some snacks in your room, can you rent a fridge and a microwave? Absolutely. We have a really great program where you can rent one of those and they will be delivered to your room before you move in on campus, which is really nice and easy. And so we will email you all details about how to rent a micro fridge. So great. Oh man. Okay. And then the last question about dining dollars is, do they roll over? And so meal swipes, it will vary based on your specific plan. If you have the weekly 14, those will reset at the end of the week on Sundays. If you have the unlimited or the block plan, then those will um, last you the entire semester and reset at the semester change. Now, your dining dollars, those do roll over from fall to spring if you have not used them all. The thing to remember is that they do expire at the end of the spring term, so you will want to use them. All right.
Virginia, I'm seeing lots of questions about parking.
Mm.
Parking is separate from university housing and dining. I encourage you to check out the University of Iowa Parking and Transportation website to see more about the parking permits that are available to students that live on campus. Uh, you will notice that the parking for students that live on campus is limited and is not very close to central campus, but is accessible via the CAN bus. There is a stop out there. So we always recommend pay attention to what parking's got going on, and you'll get more information from them if you sign up for a permit. There are also some questions about if my room selection day is June 7th. What are, honestly, I don't think that's one of the days, but what are the chances that I'm going to get into a particular residence hall? And we cannot predict the future. We unfortunately do not have a fancy crystal ball of room selection. The options available to you at your time slot are going to depend on the factors that we talked about earlier, but the biggest factor being what other Hawkeyes select before you. We don't have a way to predict where students are going to select what's going to be the most, popular or the quickest option this year. So we encourage you to remain open-minded and ready to, shift from your top option to something a little farther down your list. And make sure that you have those conversations ahead of time if you've got a roommate, so that whoever is doing the selections initially can make a good choice on behalf of the group. There's some questions about block 160 versus weekly 14. So the block 160 meal plan is 160 meals for the semester. It's up to you to decide how you want to budget that out for the semester. If you run out, you can use your dining dollars to purchase additional meals in the marketplaces. But Block 160 works out to be, I think, about like 10 to 12 meals per week, just depending on how you spend those. And then there's no reset, it's just 160 for the semester, whereas the weekly 14 is just as it sounds, 14 meals per week, and that resets on Sundays. So if you don't use all your meals in one week, the the unused meals do not roll over. We just restart at 14 for the week.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick review of some room selection logistics. First is that if you receive a time slot, you can log in starting at that time or anytime after to select your room. There's not a specific time frame by which you must select your room. However, the portal will close overall on June 15th at 12 noon. The other piece is that there are going to be people who will be entering the portal to pick their own rooms after your selection time. So things to be mindful of. Now, if you are pre-assigned, that might mean that you are in honors or you're a living learning community, or hey, your roommate had the first time slot. When you go on in, what you will do then is you will just pick your meal plan, renter's insurance, and bed configuration. That's all you'll need to do during your second period time slot. One person has asked, what if I have a roommate and I log in and I don't see a room with two spaces available? I want to be clear that we have not had that problem. We will have enough space to honor all of your roommate requests. The specific challenge that you and your roommates will have to discuss is what buildings are you open to living in? And that's because sometimes you may not find a room with two spaces in a building that you might be interested in living in. And so you might have to think about something else. But we have had enough space for everybody for the past several years in order to live there. And with your roommate, you two should again talk about some of those options. The thing to remember too is that you are impacted by the students who pick ahead of you, and you are also impacted by your gender. And that's a really important factor, especially when we are a nearly 60-40 split between women and men living in the residence halls. So there's just going to be different spaces available on different times, if you might be a man or you might be a woman. So that's something to be aware of. Oh, hey, what's the first date that someone can select a room? So we have the first date that we have people logging in to actually pick a room will be June 1st. On the 28th and the 29th, we have pre-assigned students logging in to handle their meal plans. But then starting June 1st all the way through June 12th, we will have new waves of students logging in to pick their rooms. And yes, there is a way to switch your room after June 12th. We will leave the portal open throughout the weekend, and it will close on Monday, June 15th. After June 15th at noon, we take a pause so our team can put together housing contracts and message you all. And then we will have room changes available in the fall after move-in. So those are a couple of brief pieces. I want to acknowledge the team behind the scenes has been working it real hard and have answered more than 200 questions for you all. I can see we still have 100 left in the Q&A, and we're not going to be able to answer all of them, but we will do our darndest. And what we will do right now, if for some reason we can't get to you and you've got a very specific question, don't hesitate to email us. Please remember to include your name and your university ID number. That's your 8-digit number, so we can make sure that we get you the right information to answer your specific question. Elliot, what do you got?
Some questions about how late is dining open? When are the different places open? So, the dining hours will be published on the dining website. You can look at different locations to see when they're going to be open. For the marketplaces, you can see when the different meals are served. And then if you're a planner like me, you might want to see the menu for the marketplace before you decide which one you're going to go to. And we do have menus online. If you are someone with dietary needs or allergies, that kind of stuff, you will have a great time viewing our pre-recorded webinar on dining and dietary needs that will be on the orientation YouTube soon. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I think. But that has all the info you need about navigating the marketplaces if you have dietary needs. But the locations and the hours, that's all posted on the website, so that you can see day to day what those options are going to be. And we invite you to sample all of the options that are available to you. If you live on the west side, let's say you live in Reno, you're going to be really close to the Hillcrest Marketplace, but that doesn't mean you can't stop by the Birch Marketplace for lunch one day if you've got class on the east side of campus. So there's no requirement for which one you can go to. Your meal plan will work in all three, as well as all of the UH&D retail locations. There's also been a few questions about ADA and medical accommodations. Students with approved ADA and medical accommodations have been in contact with our team. They've received emails from our team regarding, approvals and other information for them. If you've got questions about your specific situation, I encourage you to reach out to our team. You can reply to one of those emails that will go to our ADA team within our UH&D team, or you can contact our general housing inbox or phone line, which there was another question about that. How do I reach you if I have a problem? Our main phone line is, if you're ready, 319 335 3000. And then our email inbox is just housing at uiowa.edu. So please feel free to reach out to either of those, and our team will be ready to assist. We have an excellent staff of first line responders for the phones and email that have completed a ton of training and practice, and they are ready to help you navigate the housing portal and answer your questions. And if they need an assist, they'll take a message, and then another member of our team will get back to you within 1 to 2 business days. We try to get back to you as quickly as we can, but there sometimes are a lot of you that need our support, and so it takes us a little time. There's also some questions about the like cash options on campus for dining. All of our locations are cashless, and so students, depending on what location they're in, if they can use their meal plan, they could use meal plan swipes. If it's a place that accepts dining dollars, they can use their dining dollars, and then all the locations accept Iowa One Card or UBill charge if you have that enabled and your bill is in good standing, or cash or not cash, credit or debit. So no cash, card only, and that applies all across campus in housing and dining. Virginia, what else you got?
Okay, to wrap us up, I'm getting a lot of questions about how to rent a micro fridge. And so we are going to ask our colleague to toss some things in the chat for you all to be able to see. We have a wonderful website about move-in, and we will be having another webinar about move-in. Elliot, will you put that up on the screen? And so we will talk about all the things that you can bring and how you can rent a mini fridge. That is all on this move-in website and will be reviewed in early July. And so we look forward to having you all join us on this webinar, or watching the recording, checking out the website. One of you asked, hey, is there bicycle parking? And yes, we have a ton of bike racks across campus. Please don't forget your helmet and register your bike. And then if you wanted to store your bike in your room, that's a conversation between you and your roommate, because bikes can take up some space. So make sure that you two chat about that potential. All right. And we are going to each take one final question to close us on out this evening. Thank you all so much. And we really appreciate your time and your patience this evening. This anonymous attendee, I would just like to say thank you. Their question is, you suggested having 8 to 10 options to consider for rooms. I assume this means multiple halls to consider and room types beyond doubles. Yes. I have found that in the several years that I have worked here at Iowa, when students come in and they have a willingness to live in 5 or 6 different buildings, that their room selection goes much better than someone who might come in and say, I can only live in these 3 buildings. Because it's easier for us to be able to answer their questions and to be able to meet their expectations if they're open to more possibilities. Elliot, do you want to take one final question live, and then we'll type a few more answers for a few more minutes afterwards?
Yeah, we've got a lot of individual questions in the chat that are about somebody's individual circumstances. We may not have the answer for you in the chat tonight, so I strongly encourage you reach out to our team, via email this evening, and we can get back to you in the next couple days. Just make sure to include that university ID number in your communication, and if possible, communicate with us through your University of Iowa email address so we know it's you. And we will look into your individual situation to provide you support that's relative to your circumstances. So if we couldn't get to you tonight, or your question is maybe a little more complicated or personal, please reach out individually and our team is ready to support you. So we are going to get ready to close out. And if you want to reach us, give us a call or send us an email.